get this started. Type 1 is going to hit your desks.
I am Charla Huber, and I teach English Language Arts in the 8th grade, and I have been teaching for a total of 11 years.
And it is actually in the packets. Today we will start our Telltale Heart unit. But there's some work to do before we actually open the pages of the story. All right, class, please do now. We have 2 minutes and 17 seconds. When can telling the truth be a lie? Type 1, minimum 5 lines.
Type 1s begin in the planning phases, for sure. When I'm planning a lesson, I make sure that there are Type 1 writings incorporated typically at the beginning of the class and somewhere toward the middle. Teaching an 82-minute block requires a 4-minute break or so for students, and sometimes the Type 1 is a nice way to start a class and also to reel them back in. That doesn't mean that is always the case. There are times that Type 1s are just a moment, a teachable moment, where you need the students to reflect or react. You can also, by managing your classroom and monitoring your students, see different times that it's appropriate. And so the planning piece of Type 1 writing is just so important in the long run.
All right, 1, 2, please share with your group. Everybody read what you have.
You really get language therapy. It's just like saying that you get it.
Okay, class, I would like at least one person from every table to share. At least one person from every table to share. So what you're trying to say, you're understanding what you're trying to say. The person cannot interpret what you're saying. So does that mean that you are not lying and that person might think it's a lie? Or that you are lying and that person thinks it's not a lie? The second one. Oh, has this happened to you? Okay. All right, yes. Oh, okay.
So I gave an example of it.
Okay, you say that you are telling the truth, but you can really be lying. Do you think, does anybody in here think a friend has done that to you before? That a friend says, I'm telling you the truth. Honestly, I'm telling you the truth, but then states a lie? Oh, no.
I'm telling you the truth honestly.
Honestly, I'm telling you the truth, but... Okay. Well, that brought up one, too. Claire, please share.
Whenever I have a Type 1 ready to go, or even a Type 2, please do now at the beginning of class, I know that my students are going to have an opportunity to start class by thinking, and they're going to be able to feel confident in giving an answer, because that, please do now, that Type 1 writing is not a right or wrong answer. So they're going to be able to provide their thoughts, and it goes on paper first. Then oftentimes we're turning and we're talking to somebody before it's even shared at a group at large. So Type 1 writing is numerous benefits, including the confidence that it brings my students and the overall impact of how students are thinking beyond any way that they could have if I just posed a question and asked for 1 or 2 students or 3 or 4 students to provide a cold response.
So, okay. The fisherman's tales. Nobody else was there to see the 4-foot fish.
It was your distant cousin that ended up getting eaten by it.
All right. The exaggeration could be a lie. Okay, how about over here, Alexis?
With type 1 writings, it is the same prompt given to every student in my classroom. However, I do know that there are some students who might need a different line requirement. And this starts at the beginning of the year, simply crouching down at their desk and saying that they need to write 3 instead of 5 lines. Some students will make eye contact and I could give a simple number sign. Whenever I make an announcement to the class that they need to write 5 lines this morning, maybe I'll give them a 3 symbol. Nobody else really sees because everybody else is busy writing and it's differentiated for their needs. I don't typically have students at higher levels write more. I don't think that that is a necessary practice, but there are some times that I might go over to a student with a higher ability and ask them to incorporate some punctuation mark that we've been working on, or maybe just to challenge their thinking in some way. And not as often in a type 1 as I would maybe in a type 3, but it leaves room in just a short amount of time class time that's being utilized for this. There are different ways that you can differentiate to make it comfortable for students and just to overall get the result. And the result is logical, organized thinking on paper which can be shared.
Okay, welcome back. We are going to complete this type 1 now to get our thoughts together, and then we'll have another activity, a group activity, and then we will go over the answers from the scavenger hunt. So, the please do now type 1 minimum 5 lines is, think about the writer. How might Poe's early life have contributed to his fondness of writing horror stories? Please begin.
Overall, I'd like to say this should take 5 minutes of class each time that it's done. Just like anything new at the beginning, it's going to maybe take a little bit longer because you'll need to figure out how you'll record. Firstly, the answer is, the question is on the board. It's written either on my smartboard or on the whiteboard, depending on if I need graphics or what I feel like it should look like for that day, depending on what we're thinking about and talking about. Students will come in and they know specifically where to record this type 1. So during units, sometimes I have separate packets that they need to use to record because it all stays together. In their minds, that's very organized. Those thoughts are connected to their learning. And that's so important to remember. And other times when we're not directly in a particular novel unit, for example, they have a section in their binders where they're recording their type 1 responses. And keep in mind that there's not a right or wrong answer, but there is a line minimum. So also on the please do now that's written out, I give them their line minimum. And I don't tend to find an issue with students meeting that requirement. Holding them accountable is through a stamp. So as the students begin to meet that line minimum, say for example they had a question and they needed to write 5 lines. 5 lines does not mean 5 sentences. 5 lines mean 5 actual lines on a paper. And when I see that the 5th line is completely written in, I will rubber stamp their paper. And it's just so amazing to see what a student will do for a stamp, even in the middle school at an 8th grade level. It's charming, and it's almost sort of just enjoyable to realize that they're going to feel success and accomplishment at that physical moment where that stamp hits the page. And sometimes I will even hear students say, you missed my paper, or maybe raise their hand or make direct eye contact with me because I didn't come over and stamp their page quite yet. So The stamp is an amazingly simple tool that you use to note a mutual completion of the type 1.